Hello everyone, so Blizzard has posted a lot of changes going into patch 11.1, so season 2 of the War Within. So we got a lot to talk about, so the patch notes here for all the changes that are happening to Warrior and all the other classes, but we don't care about the other classes. There's some class sets as well, so season 2 sets. There's some changes to the talent tree as well, which I will be talking about, and there's the MOG as well, that's also available, and they're also buffing threat, so let's begin and go to the only class that matters. Warrior, where are we? Here. No, here. So, firstly, developers notes they feel that Warriors are in a good place overall. However, there are a few places that they'd like to make improvements to each spec and the class as a whole. So when they say that they feel that Warriors are in a good place overall, it probably means that they're looking at the raid rankings and Arms and Fury in the raid rankings. Currently in the current raid, the Rhubarb Palace, we're above average, so we're doing pretty decently there. Fury's boss damage is not good, but yeah, that's another story altogether. In M+, Arms and Fury are just doing okay, and yeah, so I guess I agree that Warriors are doing well overall. It's just doing well is not the same as being meta. So if you want to be meta, Warrior is probably not the one. Anyway, so they're talking about Warrior survivability in particular. It's been a weak point. This is probably because Arms and Fury, for some reason, are topping the death rankings on Warcraft logs last time I checked. Endurance training, which is this talent here, is pretty much inaccessible because it competes with Armor to Teeth, Wild Strikes, or dual wield specialization, or any of these two talents down here, right? So it's pretty much impossible to take this without losing a big amount of throughput. So they are moving that to a different place in the tree. I'll show you where they moved it when I go to the talent tree up here. So this will be a massive change, actually. It says here that reinforced plates now is a 2-point talent. So it's this talent here, and it increases stamina and 5% armor. Sorry, stamina and armor by 5% per point. So that is a massive buff. It of course is 2 points now instead of 1, but I'll go through why in a moment. So overwhelming rage, yeah, there you go, is now a 1-point talent and increases maximum rage by 30. So basically they just halved the point cost for this one, but kept the effect the same. So that's great, and that's a good change. So basically we lost 1 point, but we also gained 1 point, so it doesn't really change anything. So that's fine. It will be nice getting basically 10% free stamina. Arms will definitely enjoy that, and Fury, well, I think Fury is decently tanky already, but I'm not going to say no to more stamina, especially if we are somehow dying more than other classes. Maybe that's just because we're Warrior Brains though. Anyway, moving on. Dual wield spec is now different for each spec. The weapon specs, which they have moved to a different point in the tree. I will show you that when I show you the new tree as well. So the dual wield spec is here, right? And then if you spec arms, then it's 200 specialization or 100 specialization if you prot. So 200 spec now is a 2-point talent. It grants you 3% damage and 2% reduction of damage to area of effect attacks while wielding a 200 weapon per point. So 6% damage and 4% avoidance, basically. Nice. Free survivability for Arms. Arms needs all the help it can get in that area, I think. For Fury, it gives you 6% damage and 4% movement speed when you put 2 points in it, which I imagine that you'll pretty much always do. It'll be nice having extra movement speed. I always love movement speed. And Prot gets 6% damage and 2% leech. Thunderous Words has been nerfed a little bit. The bleed amp is now only 20% instead of 30%. Not 100% sure why they're doing this yet, but we'll see. It might be because the bleed damage is going up as a result of some of these changes, depending on what build you're playing. So let's see. Cruel strikes, wild strikes, and weapon spec nodes have changed positions in the tree. I'll show you that, like I mentioned, in a bit. Endurance training has been removed altogether because they baked it into reinforced plates. So, for arms, they're saying arms warrior should always feel good about using Mortal Strike when it's available. So removing damage from the overpower buff into Mortal Strike and Cleave baseline to open up more rotational and build options. So I don't know if you played arms recently, this expansion, but for example, when I play Colossus in M+, and I just use a Mortal Strike that doesn't have, martial prowess, the overpower buff, I don't have Warbreaker on the target, I don't have Avatar, I have nothing, right? And if I do a non-crit Mortal Strike, it hits for like 400k, and I have Bisc gear. Whereas if I do an amped Mortal Strike with like cooldowns, it can go all the way up to like nearly 5 million. So that's just such a massive swing, because you have like modifier upon modifier on top of modifier on top of modifier. So the baseline is now being brought up by 15%, and they are reducing the effectiveness of martial prowess from 30%. So that's the overpower. After you overpower, you buff your next Mortal Strike or Cleave by 15% per stack now, up to 2 stacks and 8. So basically, you could get a maximum of 60% damage amp on Mortal Strike and Cleave, but now you can only get a maximum of 30% with martial powers. So great change. It'll just deal more damage baseline, and this will be less effective. Good change, indeed. I do think there's a lot more changes that they need to make to arms for it to actually feel like a complete spec. Right now, it just feels a little bit, I don't know how to explain it, just a bit of a mess of a spec that nothing really flows well. Nothing makes sense. You just press the best button because it is the best button, but it's just weird. Anyway, moving on. Bloodborne, they're nerfing that. So for some reason they are nerfing bleeds, and I haven't felt like bleeds are doing that much this expansion anyway for arms. So I'm a little bit confused why they're doing this, because most of my damage when I'm playing arms in keys has just been Demolish and Cleave and Mortal Strike, Overpower. The bleeds are just like playing support. So, but yeah, it is nerfed anyway. Blood Surge now causes damage from deep wounds to have a chance to generate 3 rage. What does it do again? Hold up. It had 5 rage before. From your bleed effects, have a 10% chance. That just seems like a straight nerf, unless they've increased the chance of this proccing a lot, just from deep wounds. Anyway, whatever. Nobody picked Blood Surge anyway, so yeah. Colossal Might is no longer applied by Execute, so this is kind of a big change, actually. So the issue with Colossal Might being applied by Execute was that you would just prioritize Execute all the time very highly and let Mortal Strike sit there off cooldown, but you wouldn't use it. But now that it doesn't apply Colossal Might, you will probably use Mortal Strike on cooldown again during Execute phases, which is probably a good change. I did like having Colossal Might applied by Execute, but it's probably a healthy change, but definitely a nerf. But this is also a buff, so I don't know. I think whatever they're doing now is like just shifting damage around. They can tune us later. They can. Hopefully they will, if we need to be tuned up afterwards. An issue causing Demolish's animation to not correctly play sometimes is now fixed. I haven't experienced this, I think. I've experienced Demolish being cancelled many times because the enemy takes 1 step out of my melee range, and then it just doesn't do it at all, even though I'm surrounded by enemies that could have gotten hit by Demolish. But because my one target has moved slightly away, it just cancels itself. That has frustrated me many times. Anyway, moving on. Slayer. Cleave will only trigger Reap the Storm if 3 or more targets are hit. It's a weird change, I think, but fine. It doesn't really matter that much. I guess they just don't want you to be cleaving as much on 2 targets, but only when you're hitting 3 targets, ideally. So this is going to be applied to Fury as well, this change here. Imminent Demise, which is the Slayer talent, that makes it so that when you proc Slayer strikes, hold up 1 second, this one here, every 3 Slayer strikes you gain sudden death, and using sudden death accelerates your next blade storm, striking 1 additional target. Striking 1 additional time. Anyway, that talent will only work if you have sudden death talented. So in our AoE Slayer builds, we haven't been taking sudden death because we've just been relying on imminent demise itself to give you enough sudden deaths so that you can consume your marked for execution stacks. But now you actually do need to have sudden death talented, which makes sense for you to use a sudden death hero talents. So it does limit our talent choices a little bit, but I think it's a sensible change in the end. Moving on, where were we? Oh yeah, so Fury notes, they're saying that Fury is overall in a place that we're happy with, and we're taking this opportunity to redesign some talents to keep their effects unique and powerful. So they're actually changing more things than I thought they would, and Titan's Torment is one of them. So Titan's Torment has been problematic this tier. As most of you probably know, in the raids, Fury has probably gotten nerfed way too much at the start of the expansion just because we were able to do so much upfront burst. And Titan's Torment was one of the culprits of that, because you could just do 2 Odin's Fury in very short time. Titan's Torment also allowed you to just do very many abilities within one global cooldown. Right? You had Roar, Avatar, which procs your Odin's Fury in the same global, instantly followed by a Blade Storm. It is just so much damage in 3 or 4 seconds, and it doesn't require any setup if you have Titanic Rage talented. So they decided to redesign it all together. So the new one is that while Avatar is active, Rampage's rage cost is reduced by 20 and Bloodthirst cooldown is reduced by 1.5 seconds. So that 1.5 seconds reduction on Bloodthirst will mean that it's 1 global cooldown shorter, the cooldown. So usually you can do Bloodthirst into 2 abilities and then Bloodthirst again. But now it's Bloodthirst. Now during this cooldown, it'll be Bloodthirst, global cooldown, Bloodthirst, global cooldown, Bloodthirst, while Avatar is active. I think it's a cool idea. I just don't know how impactful this Rampage rage cost is actually going to be, because a lot of the time we don't prioritize Rampage that highly anyway. But there is another change that is happening as well to Reckless Abandon. But let's read the developer's notes on why they're redesigning Titan's Torment. So it says, we want to provide a new option for Avatar to impact Fury's rotation and let you make the best use of your Avatar duration with more Rampages and Bloodthirsts. This change will also allow us to maintain Odin Fury as a powerful and signature Fury ability independent of Avatar. So if they're going to redesign Titan's Torment like this and not compensate with Odin's Fury buffs, then I can't see any builds really taking Odin's Fury, because it's quite the investment to get down here and not take any of the other things here or up here. So if they are nerfing Titan's Torment, they probably need to buff Odin's Fury to compensate for the loss of Titan's Torment, I think, anyway. Also, Onslaught has been not used this entire expansion. It is overshadowed wildly by your other generators, such as Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. So I think maybe they need to think of a way to make this button better, and ideally something more exciting as well, because it has, even when it is good in its current design, it is not that exciting to use. So yeah. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. Reckless Abandon. This is a big one. They are reverting Reckless Abandon to its original. I don't know how long ago it's been since Reckless Abandon did this, but they changed this probably in Dragonflight, I think. So in Shadowlands, it used to be like this. Activating Recklessness generates 50 rage. That is like it is right now. But while Recklessness is active, Raging Blow and Bloodthirst are replaced by Crushing Blow and Bloodbath. So that means only during Recklessness, Raging Blow and Bloodthirst are empowered. So that means it's no longer going to be one Crushing Blow and one Bloodbath every time you rampage. I think I like this because Recklessness hasn't felt like a proper cooldown for a while. And this old Reckless Abandon really did make Recklessness feel like a proper cooldown. So Crushing Blow is basically a stronger Raging Blow. It deals 10% increased 10% increased crit damage, and Bloodbath applies a bleed to the target that is extended by its full duration when reapplied. I'm guessing it will like ignite, all the bleeds will stack like Ignite does for mages, but it's not too clear. But yeah, so what are they saying? They're saying Reckless Abandon has been having an outsized impact on rotation, and we'd like to bring the focus of the talent back to Recklessness, as well as make Crushing Blow and Bloodbath abilities with unique additional effects. So basically, they haven't really redesigned it, they just reverted it to what it used to be. But they did kind of make Crushing Blow and Bloodbath a little bit more spicy than just a Raging Blow that does more damage or a Bloodthirst that does more damage. So that's cool. I guess, did they nerf Bloodborne for Fury? No, they did not. So Bloodbath now applies a bleed. Thunderous Words was nerfed from 30% to 10%. No, sorry, to 20%. Maybe this is one of the reasons, I don't know. And here's that Slayer sudden death change that I talked about earlier. Let's talk about Prot as well, because I'm interested in this one, and I'm kind of upset actually, because I really enjoy playing Prot, and I think this might make it less fun to play. So they're saying Prot warriors are currently constantly flooded with rage, which undermines rotational defensive decision making and encourages constant dumping of rage into ignore pain to maximize effectiveness. We're taking a pass at reducing Prot's overall rage generation to make decisions on when and how to spend it more meaningfully without reducing Prot warriors' ability to tank effectively. So they are actually not achieving this with these changes. This is definitely going to be an overall nerf for Prot, and it will slow everything down. I think one of the fun things about Prot is that it is so fast, and it feels like you are powerful because you have this much rage and you're able to press this many buttons. And Prot's bread and butter is to generate and spend rage as much as possible, because that gives you your avatar more often, which means that you can Thunder Blast more often, you can Thunderclap more often. It gives you a demo shot back faster as well if you're able to Thunderclap more. It's just, it's a really good feedback effect. And if they're nerfing Rage Gen this much, it's going to have a much bigger effect on Prot's strength than you would think. So basically, chance to reset the cooldown of Shield Slam from Devastator and Strategist reduced to 20%, was 30%, so you'll have a lot fewer Shield Slam resets now. Impenetrable Wall no longer increases the rage generated by Shield Slam. That's this talent around here. It's the one that gives cooldown reduction to Shield Wall, I think, whenever you spend rage. So all it will do is Shield Slam reduces the cooldown of Shield Wall by 6 seconds. It doesn't give you any more rage. Booming Voice causes Demo Shout to generate 20 rage instead of 30. You could really feel that rage gen sometimes on Big Pulse, because you get so much CDR from thunderclapping this many targets all the time. Champion's Bulwark no longer increases the rage generated by shield charge. That's kind of whatever, I guess. Blood Surge now causes damage from deep wounds to have a chance to generate 3 rage. That's kind of a big nerf, because now this is not going to benefit Rend or Thunderous Roar anymore. So Blood Surge, maybe just really bad now. I don't know. Violent Outburst has been rebuilt to be easier to understand and track progress towards the next outburst. Additional rage generated from Violent Outburst reduced to 50% was 100. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by this. Let's move on. Oh, right. I see. So it's basically the same still, but they're changing the Shield Slam or Thunderclap bonus rage gen from 100% to 50, and that's all. Okay, I don't understand how that makes it easier to understand and track, but anyway. Shield Wall cooldown reduced to 3 minutes, was 3.5, so that's probably to compensate for some of this Shield Slam, fewer Shield Slam resets and casts in general. So the only thing they did to sort of compensate for this was to increase the Ignore Pain absorption. These nerfs are way bigger than what this is giving us. This is not enough compensation for this. And Colossal Might is no longer a part of Execute, whatever. So, yeah, I think they're taking away the fun from Prot and also making it weaker at the same time. I hope they do something more to give Prot something back, or just reconsider what they're doing here. Anyway, this took a long time. I hope this is okay and people don't lose interest because I'm talking for this long. But let's move on to the next one. So tier set bonuses. Tier set bonuses are weird this time around. So all of the DPS specs, or all of the melee DPS specs, and like range DPS specs, tanks, healers, they'll get their own, like all of them get this similar 2-set. So arms, 2-set, your spells and ability have a chance to activate Winning Streak, increasing the damage of your Mortal Strike and Cleave by 2%, stacking up 10 times. Overpower has a 15% chance to remove your Winning Streak. So basically, every time you press Mortal Strike and Cleave, you get 2% more damage on Mortal Strike and Cleave, stacking up to 10 times. But if you press Overpower, which you will be doing because it's it's a key ability in your rotation. If you don't press Overpower, you're not buffing your next Mortal Strike or Cleave, and you also are just going to run out of Rage because you can't be pressing abilities that only spend Rage all the time. You need to press Overpower because it deals good damage. It gives you a break in your Rage spending. So, I don't know. It goes with the gambling theme of the goblins, right? So that's the idea. It's still going to feel pretty bad though. Like to see your winning streak being lost all the time just because you're doing your rotation correctly. So sometimes you'll win, sometimes you lose. I guess this will add more variance to from your pull to pull. You'll really notice this on single targets because sometimes your overpower isn't removing your winning streaks, and other times you're losing it all the time. So everyone gets kind of the same 2-set, and the 4-set is what makes it kind of different. So when your winning streak ends, so I guess here, overpower, yeah, when you lose it, your overpowers deal 20% more damage and recharge 75% faster for 2 seconds per stack of winning streak that you had. So this will have synergy with Battle Lord, assuming that Overpower is a really good button and you want to press it all the time. I think it probably will be. You'll be slamming a lot less with this tier set bonus at least, because you'll be too busy pressing your hard hitters like Mortal Strike, Execute, and Overpower. Well, Mortal Strike and Overpower mainly when you have this set. But I think Execute will be proccing a lot anyway because you're most likely playing Slayer on single target. What do I think about this? I feel okay about this set. I don't think it's particularly inspiring, but it could be worse. but it definitely could be better. So let's move on to Fury. So for Fury, it is literally just Rampage and Rampage. So your spells and abilities have a chance to activate a winning streak, increasing the damage of a Rampage by 2%, stacking up to 10 times. Rampage has a 15% chance to remove winning streak. You'll be casting Rampage a lot. You'll be losing your winning streak a lot. But maybe this winning streak stacks up really fast, so it doesn't feel so bad. We'll see. Anyway, when you gain a stack of winning streak, you have an even chance to either cause your next Bloodthirst to deal 15% increased damage and have 25% increased chance to crit, or cause your Raging Blow to deal 15% increased damage and generate 2 additional rage. I feel like the 4-set isn't very strong, and I feel like the procs aren't really strong enough to make you press whichever button procced. But even if say you get a Bloodthirst proc, right? If you press it straight away, you'll use it straight away. But then if you press Raging Blow first, then you'll get a stack of Blood Craze, which gives you a 15% increased chance to crit on the Bloodthirst anyway, right? So maybe it's correct to do a Raging Blow first and then Bloodthirst, which means nothing really changes. I'm not really sold on this concept. So I think this might just end up being another tier set bonus that you don't really track or feel. And I feel like that would be a failure in design. That's all I got to say, really. It might be numerically decent, though, depending on how strong the 2-set is. I don't feel like the 4-set does that much, unless it procs all the time, I guess. And it might do. It might do. Because this can stack up to 10 times, right? And every time you get a stack, you get one of these procs. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see see the Sims. Maybe I'm underestimating this. Moving on. Prot. This one I actually kind of like. So each time you take damage, you have a chance to activate Luck of the Draw, causing you to cast Shield Wall for 4 seconds. I guess you gain Shield Wall for 4 seconds. You wouldn't be putting Shield Wall on cooldown, presumably. Anyway, that part of it is meh. RNG defensive, feels kind of bad. Doesn't really suit the tank that well, but maybe it'll feel better than I think it will. Anyway, when you proc Luck of the Draw, your damage then is increased by 15% for 10 seconds. And during Luck of the Draw with the 4-set, Shield Slam has a 50% increased chance to crit, and Shield Slam crits reduce the cooldown of Shield Charge by 6 seconds. So during this 10-second window, your Shield Slams will pretty much always crit, because you have some baseline crit. Prot likes crit, so most of your Shield Slam will just crit and reduce the cooldown of Shield Charge by a lot. So I don't know how much CDR you'll get on average for each proc, but you'll probably be able to get more than half of your Shield Charge cooldown back, which means you'll be Shield Charging a lot more often. Than Shield Charge is a nice button. It feels good to press, so I kind of like Prots, actually. Out of all 3 of these, I like Prots the most. Which is unusual, I guess. I'm usually an Arms and Fury guy, but yeah, I think Prot won this time out of our 3 specs. Okay, moving on. The talent tree changes that were mentioned in the notes here. So dual wield specialization is gone. Well, he's moved. The weapon spec has moved to the Thunderous Roar. So instead of having Cruel Strikes here, we now have dual wield spec here. Armor to Teeth is still here, which is kind of upsetting because it's still quite strong and you will take it in most cases, unless it's somehow weaker than Cruel Strikes, which has been moved here now. So Endurance Training has been removed and replaced by Wild Strike. They just moved Wild Strikes over here and they moved Cruel Strikes here. I do like this design more. What else did they move? They made it so that reinforced plates takes 2 points instead of 1, but they also made it so that overwhelming rage only costs 1. So doesn't really change much of anything that I can see, at least. But it is free power, because we do gain 10% stamina for free, basically, compared to what we had before. So I guess it's a win for us. Yep. It does cause some weird-ish things, I guess. Let's say that none of the torments are worth taking, and Uproar is not worth taking. Would you then just go with double cooldowns with double capstones? Or maybe Uproar is not really worth it, so you just don't take Uproar, and you take a single point in Spear, just because it deals a decent amount of damage whenever you throw it out. So I don't know. Maybe the point in Cruel Strikes is better than Spear, but that would be... I'm not sure if that... I can't see that being the case. For arms I can, but for Fury, no. Lots of things will have to be run, but just thinking it might open up some more opportunities for some cooking down here. At the very least, every single talent at the third part of the tree, the class tree, is now DPS only. We don't have to choose. We don't have everything DPS and then 1 point for defense here. So I think that in itself is quite good. Did they change anything here? The only thing they changed here was Reckless Abandon. They didn't change any of this sort of layout here. So I guess we've gone through everything here. Don't think they changed anything for arms. Nope. Nope, and it didn't do for Prot either. So that's pretty much all there is for the talent tree changes, and how the bottom part looks here is the most important. This doesn't really do anything, like I said. So Season 2 tier set models, and I think this time we got a good one. In my opinion, this is great. This looks great. Is this... wait, one sec. Is this normal? I'm not too sure. Whatever difficulty this is, I think this set is good. I kind of like the helm. I'm not someone who likes helms in general on my character, but this one is decent, I guess. As far as helms go, this is good. Does it say here? Normal. So that must be the normal one. What would this one be then? This one is still normal. Okay. This looks different. This feels like mythic. I like this color. Okay, it just says normal, so I guess whatever this is not the difficulty. Yeah, I like this color a lot. This is great. This one is also really good, this color. Big dub when it comes to mugs. Might even use this. Probably not the helmet, just because I'm not a helmet guy, like I said. Yeah, very cool. I'm going to link all of these things in the video description, by the way, in case you want to click them yourself and share them. And lastly, they buffed threat for tanks. We've died a lot to getting aggro this expansion, just because we have so much burst, so much on-demand damage, and that probably doesn't change that much. Yes, we are losing Titans, Torment, Odin, Fury, so that does reduce our burst threat a little bit, but we still are able to set up our burst pretty much straight away, right? We'll be using Roar and Bait Storm pretty much instantly still, and that's a lot of burst damage, so this is nice. All tank threat has been buffed by 22%. Snap threat might still be an issue, but buffing all of their threat by 22%, it does go a long way. So good news overall, I would say. A little bit disappointed with I am disappointed with the tier set bonuses, and I hope they iterate more on them. I'm disappointed with the prot changes. I think they are going a good direction with Fury, really. I think they are going a good direction with arms as well. I don't like all the changes. I do hope for more changes, and I do like that we're getting extra tankiness for free, because arms definitely needed it, and while Fury might not have really needed it, I will happily take it. You know. So, yeah. That's all I got to say. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I will see you next time.